There once was a young, beautiful woman, and she lived in a fragrant pine forest. Her husband was away fighting a war for many years. When he was released from duty, he trudged home in a most foul mood. He refused to enter the house, for he had become used to sleeping on stones. He kept to himself and stayed in the forest. His young wife was excited when she learned of him coming home. She cooked bowls of tasty white soybean curd, 3 kinds of fish, and 3 kinds of seaweed, and rice sprinkled with red pepper and nice cold prawns. Smiling shyly, she carried the food to the woods and knelt beside her war-weary husband and offered him the beautiful food. But he sprang to his feet and kicked the trays over. "Leave me alone," he roared, and turned his back on her. Time after time this occurred, until finally the young woman sought help from the village healer. "My husband has been badly injured in the war," the wife said. "He rages continuously and eats nothing. He wishes to stay outside and will not live with me as before. Can you give me a potion that will make him loving and gentle once again?" The healer assured her, "Yes, my dear daughter, this is something I can do. But I am missing one ingredient for my potion, and that is the white hair of the throat from the Crescent Moon Bear that lives up on the mountain. So you must climb the mountain, find the bear, and bring me back a single hair from the Crescent Moon Bear's throat. Then I can give you what you need, and life will be good again." Some women would have felt daunted by this task. Some women would have thought the entire effort impossible, but not she, for she was a woman who loved. The next morning she went out to the mountain and she sang out, "Arigato, mountain," which is a way of greeting the mountain and saying, "Thank you for letting me climb up on your body." She climbed into the foothills where there were boulders like big loaves of bread. She ascended up to the plateau covered with forest. The trees had long draping boughs and leaves that looked like stars. "Arigato, mountain," she cried out, thanking the trees as they lift their branches for her to pass through. But the ascent became more challenging, passing her way through thorny flowers that seized the hem of her kimono and rocks scraped her tiny hands. Strange birds flew at her in the dusk and frightened her. She knew there were Muan Batoki birds, spirits of the dead that had no relatives to pray for them. She called out, "I will pray for you. I will lay you to rest." She still climbed and saw snow on the mountain peak. Her feet were wet and cold. A storm began, and the snow blew straight into her eyes and deep into her ears. Blinded, she climbed higher, and when the snow stopped, she called out, "Arigato! thanking the winds for ceasing to blind her. She searched all day for the gigantic bear, and as sundown approached, she finally saw him. The Crescent Moon Bear roared fiercely and entered its den. She reached into her bundle and placed the food she had bought in a bowl. She set the bowl outside the den and ran back to her shelter to hide. The bear smelled the food and came lurching from its den, roaring so loudly it shook little stones loose. The bear circled around the food from a distance. Then ate the food in one gulp. The next evening, the woman did the same thing, but instead of retreating, she only went halfway. The bear smelled the food, heaved itself out of its den, roared to shake the stars from the skies, tested the air very cautiously, and finally gobbled up the food. This continued for many nights until the woman felt brave enough to not retreat and stand in front of the bear. She put the food in the bowl outside the den and stood right by the opening. When the bear smelled the food and lumbered out, it saw not only the usual food, but also a pair of small human feet. The bear roared so loudly it made the bones in the woman's body hum. The woman trembled but stood her ground. The bear hauled itself onto its back legs, smacked its jaws, and roared so the woman could see right up into the red and brown roof of its mouth. But she did not run away. The woman stood there as the bear put its arm out to seize her with a claw like 10 long knives. She stood there waving a little leaf, saying, "I will not move." And she stayed right where she was. "Oh, please, dear bear," she pleaded. "Please, dear bear, I've come all this way because I need a cure for my husband." The bear bored its front paws to earth in a spray of snow and peered into the woman's frightened face. For a moment, the woman felt she could see entire mountain ranges, valleys, rivers, and villages reflected in the bear's old eyes. A deep peace settled over her, and her trembling ceased. "Please, dear bear, I've been feeding you all these past nights. Could I please have one of the hairs from the crescent moon on your throat?" The bear paused. He thought this little woman could be easy food. But as he looked at her, he felt pity. "It is true," said the Crescent Moon Bear. "You've been good to me. You may have one of my hairs, but take it quickly, then leave here and go back to your own." The bear raised its great snout so the white crescent on its throat showed. Quickly she pulled a hair. "Oh, thank you, Crescent Moon Bear, thank you so much." The woman bowed and bowed. The bear roared at the woman in words that she couldn't understand, but yet words that she seemed to have known her whole life. And she turned and fled down the mountain as fast as she could go. She ran under the trees with leaves shaped like stars, and all the way through she cried, "Arigato! Arigato!" to thank the trees for lifting their boughs so she could pass. She stumbled over the boulders, crying, "Arigato! Arigato!" to thank the mountain for letting her climb up on its body. Though her clothes were ragged, her hair askewed, her face soiled, she ran down the stone stairs that led to the village and down the path that led straight to the old healer's door where she sat tending a fire. "Look! Look! I have found it! I found it! I claimed it! A hair of the Crescent Moon Bear!" cried the young woman. "Ah, good," said the healer with a smile. She peered closely at the woman and took the pure white hair and held it out towards the light. She weighed the long hair in one hand, measured it with one finger, and exclaimed, "Ah, yes! This is an authentic hair from the Crescent Moon Bear." Then suddenly she turned and threw the hair deep into the fire, where it popped and crackled and was consumed in a bright orange flame. "No!" cried the young wife. "What have you done?" "Be calm. It is good. All is well," said the healer. "Remember each step you took to climb the mountain. Remember each step of the journey that you took to gain the trust of the Crescent Moon Bear. What you saw, what you heard, and how you felt." "Yes," said the woman. "I remember very well." The old healer smiled at her gently and said, "Please now, my daughter, go home with your new understandings and proceed in the same way with your husband."